So I'll introduce Michael Guglielmo, who is going to share a few stories with you.
So good morning, everybody. I'm here to tell you about my girlfriend, Shauna. She was a graduate of Concord High, graduated in 2000. She was an excellent student, straight A student. She excelled at soccer, softball, leader in both of these sports, and she was a snowboarder. So she was the child that mom and dad never had to worry about because she had all the best friends, she did all the best things, extracurricular activities. She played in the orchestra, played the viola for the president, as a matter of fact, with a bunch of students from other states that were chosen to play. Now, so Shauna's she's living the dream here in Concord, New Hampshire. You know, she's a good girl, she's not in any trouble, and then she's studying for her driving test. She's 15 years old, she's going to be 16. It's February 1998, and somebody plows into the back of her car at a stoplight. Drunk driver. She's 15 years old, snaps her back, breaks her back, 15 years old. So she's a student, she's an athlete. I mean, last place you want to be is in traction. So she's got a broken back, and she has to deal with this now at 16 years old. As she heals, her spine is misaligned. Her left leg is 1 inch shorter than her right, so she has chronic sciatica. So now we have a 16-year-old girl who has chronic sciatica and is healing from a broken back. And she bounces back. She bounces back. She gets back into sport. She deals with her chronic pain. Eventually, she can't deal with her chronic pain. She starts self-medicating. Self-medicating with Percocets, self-medicating with pot, self-medicating with methanol wafers, self-medicating with anything that will kill pain. She graduates high school, still dealing with this chronic pain issue and self-medicating. And she is admitted to Merrimack College. She gets in the nursing program. She gets in the leadership program. She's such a great student that she's placed in off-campus housing for the best students. And the problem is that when she's 17 years old, working at the 99 here in Concord, she meets a guy from the halfway house who's working there too. She's 17, he's 32. He is a former heroin addict and gang member from Lawrence. Sweeps little Shauna off of her feet, you know, with his persona, his tough guy persona, what he's about, the way he speaks, romance her, tell her everything that she wanted to hear. Told her every single thing that she wanted to hear. Now, Shauna, of course, is a girl, like many of you may know. She didn't believe she was pretty enough. She didn't believe that she was skinny enough. She didn't have a good self-concept. She had never hit her self-autonomy. So what happens is she eats and pukes. In order to address her guilt, she cuts. She cut her bikini line. She cut on her neck. Any of you know any cutters? So she's doing this all a secret. You know, you don't really know about these things. We find out all these things too late, of course. So Mr. Drug Dealer sweeps her off her feet, follows her to college, gets her addicted to heroin, and then the gang has her muling 5 keys of heroin from New York back to Massachusetts every week. Now, during the course of this time, Shauna also had an unidentified seizure disorder. We believed that it was epilepsy, but when the doctors started doing the reports and the exams and everything, she got so frightened by what they were going to discover that she refused to go back to the hospital for testing. So we never found out what happened, but she continued to have seizure after seizure after seizure. So she's driving back from college, wrecks her car, breaks her back again. There's no trace of any alcohol or anything, so they believe it was a seizure. So she goes back, she goes back to college afterwards. After she heals up, of course, gets involved heavily in the heroin trade again. She's selling heroin now as well as muling it back. And she gets arrested. So she hasn't called the house for a couple of months. So the families, they're not really concerned because, she was always the good one. She was the goody two-shoe. They really never had no concern. So the Londonderry police, they call Shauna's mother and Misty. And they go down to the police station and they walk into the interrogation room and they see a girl that weighs 90 pounds and her arms all tracked up, both sides, track marks. She's a complete heroin addict, and she has adopted the entire persona of a gangster. Cursing the cops, cursing the family. So, of course, they're able to take her out of the police station, and they bring her home and they detox her, clean her up, get her off the heroin. What does she do? She goes right back to Lawrence. Gets arrested again for multiple sales of heroin to undercover detectives and informants. And now she's in big trouble. She's in a lot of trouble now. She was able to get out of the first thing, which was obstructing justice. This was an obstructing justice case because there was a drug deal organized, and it was done by the cops, and her boyfriend was supposed to deliver 5 keys of heroin. Well, somehow he got tipped off. Something didn't feel right, so he took off. And you know what he did with Shauna? He left her. This is the girl that, he proposed, said he loved and whatnot, told her all the right things, left her. So she got arrested for obstructing justice, and she wouldn't give him up. So he got away with the drugs, didn't give him up. So she gets arrested the second time. What happens now is she knows all the gang's business. She can put them all away. So what does the gang do to Shauna? They get her in a parking lot, and they viciously beat her from head to toe. Her entire body was bruised from this beating. She was so scared, she came back home to New Hampshire, and she hid in her room until they put her in prison, where she stayed for 3 years. The only reason she got out early was because she went to the marathon program and she did the drug program. So now we have a girl that has chronic injuries, right? Two broken backs, chronic pain, heroin addict, has Hep C now from shooting the dope. So she's got hepatitis C, real bad hep. She goes through the interferon. The interferon is a treatment for hepatitis that will literally almost kill you. It's chemotherapy, and it can cure hep, and it did cure it. She didn't have the hep anymore, but very, very bad. So she's struggling between sobriety, addiction, relapse, constantly. Now that she has this criminal mentality, of course, she can't get away with it. So the people that she associates with are criminals, are drug dealers, are users. If you put yourself in that environment, you can never get out, unless you walk away. But if you continue to surround yourself with people that are engaging in negative behaviors, you're going to continue to do it. So she gets out of jail. She's doing well, and she ends up going to Keene, meets another guy. And what's this guy? Another drug dealer. Another drug dealer, and he's feeding her drugs, and she's eating them because, of course, she wants them. She's in pain, both mentally, physically. The first time that she was in prison, she was raped by guards. One watched while another raped her. She was a very attractive girl. She was an athlete. She was 115 pounds. She was a beautiful girl. Of course, didn't believe that she was beautiful. Didn't believe that anyone loved her. A lot of those things that many of you may feel. You may not feel like you are beautiful or that you're loved. These are all things about self-autonomy. When you realize your self-autonomy and what you want to be in life, who you are, and what you believe and represent. A lot of people struggle to find that self-autonomy, and she did. So she gets in another car accident. Now she's trying to clean up cancer, so she's on methadone, right? She's on methadone, but continuing to take all the pain that she needs for her back. So she gets in a third car accident in Keene, snaps her back again. 3 broken backs. They rush her to Dartmouth Hitchcock, and guess what they discover? Shauna is pregnant. Now, she can't stop doing the drugs. She can't stop doing the methadone, because why? The baby will die. So she moves through this second broken back, traction, whatever she heals up, and then they have to do an emergency C-section. Now this baby is born, right? This baby is born a drug addict. The baby is addicted to methadone and opiate. Well, not opiates, because she's on methadone, but other meds. So now the baby has to go through detox. Baby has to detox. So Shauna, she has this kid. Now this is like her new beginning. She's going to live for this baby, and this is the new beginning. She wanted this baby really bad. So what happens is, she's continuing to be with the same guy. This guy locks her in the apartment, drugs her up, has sex, whatever. There's all kinds of nasty things to her. Records it. She's got the recordings for his friends. She has another seizure Thanksgiving Day. He leaves her, takes his kid, leaves her paralyzed on the floor. Brings the cops back there the next day because he's afraid she's dead. She's still alive, paralyzed again. They bring her back to the hospital. It takes a few weeks for her to come out of the paralysis, and again, her family takes her home. And they beg her, please don't go back there. So now, the one thing that she held on to try to clean herself up was this child. Gone. The child's gone. Guy followed ex parte order. Very, very wealthy family. She had no money. She couldn't defeat the lawyers. So he's dictated when she can and can't see her kid. So she's destroyed by this. So now you have all these emotional things going on. She's a cutter. She doesn't believe she's beautiful. She doesn't believe she's loved. She's a drug addict struggling between sobriety and relapse, and of course continuing to see the wrong people. Until me, of course. So, this is Shauna, right? This is all the stuff that's going on here. Now, the last 2 years were pretty tough on her because of losing her kid, and eventually, Shauna, she died. And this is Shauna. That's Shauna. 30 years old. Life is gone. Wrong decisions, wrong friends. See those hands? Those hands are a depiction of creation. She's on the Sistine Chapel. And you all have the ability to create your own destiny or your own tragedy by the decisions that you make in life. Shauna made some really bad decisions, and she had some very bad medical problems that the system doesn't have mechanisms to address. Now, do you think if you are a drug addict that you can go to the hospital and rehab and get clean? Some of you in this classroom, if you become drug addicts, will be able to get help. Others of you, if you become drug addicts, you will die, and you will not get any help. Because if you don't have private insurance and money to pay for rehab, you're not getting in there. So if your parents are, if you're fortunate enough to have families that have money, then you'll get help. But if not, you won't. Addiction is it's completely irrational. I mean, I was never addicted to any drugs, but I knew a lot of people that did drugs. I always viewed it as a weakness. If you can't control yourself, as far as I was concerned, you're weak. Well, when I found her dead on my kitchen floor and tried to do CPR on her, I knew it wasn't a weakness anymore. To me, it was a sickness. And it was a sickness that she couldn't beat. The claws of addiction and mental dissonance were so deep in her that she could not beat it. And 10 weeks ago, I found her on my floor after I had detoxed her. We detoxed her. Me and my mother, her mother, we brought her to my house and we detoxed her. You know why we detoxed her? Because we brought her to a hospital and they refused to admit her. Unless she said, I'm going to kill myself, they will not admit you. So I brought her back to my house, detoxed her. 5 days she went through detox from alcohol. 7th day, I come back to my house. She had convinced one of my house guests from Germany to get her a bottle of vodka. She took a handful of Valium and vodka and was on my floor almost dead. When I walked in, she was splayed out on the floor. I went to her, she was still alive, I picked her up, I brought her to my car, I drove her right to the fire department because I didn't want to wait for anybody to get there. And she ended up in the hospital on a ventilator for 2 days. So she was dead, she would have died. And the doctor said, had you not found her, she would have been dead. So this was 8 weeks, 10 weeks before this happens. And this was it, man. This is Shauna, man. She's dead. She made the wrong decisions. She had the wrong friends. She had medical issues that couldn't be addressed. I mean, it's unfortunate. And hopefully, maybe you can learn something from this. Anybody have any questions about Shauna?
So, how did she pass away?
She OD'd. We believe that she either OD'd accidentally or intentionally or had a seizure. The autopsy is still out. We haven't really sure. We're waiting for toxicology results to come back. But that's what I would assume. I mean, I would assume that it was pain meds because, she had a whole pocket of pain meds.
When did you come into Shauna's life? After or before she had it?
After. So it was in January, probably about January of this year. I had a friend that introduced me to her because she wanted to learn about my son Giovanni. Some of you may recognize Giovanni, my baby. So she wanted to learn the story of Giovanni. Didn't want nothing to do with me. She thought I was a jerk. So she, I don't know why, but whatever. That's how she felt. But she learned differently. Afterwards, she became, she wanted to meet Giovanni, and she became a part of Giovanni's life. So that's how I met Shauna. I really didn't know about her past, but then, we started to develop a relationship, and I said, I'm a bachelor. I'm a professional bachelor, and I would not commit to a girl when she's willing to do certain things. And with respect to her, I said, if you're willing to engage in life of sobriety, then I can commit to you, and if you can't, then I can't commit. But I remained friends with her, and we stayed together, and she struggled, and she really tried to be straight, and she had a lot of negative influences in her life, guys that would come around and stuff. I ran all them off. So all these guys that would come into her parents' house that her parents couldn't get rid of, I physically threatened them, and ran them off because they were bringing alcohol to the house, and they were contributing to her cause, to her sickness, her addiction, and that's one way that I was trying to deal with it. Now, if you get hooked up with somebody that has an addiction, what's going to happen is, you're looking at it from a rational perspective. I look at it as a weakness. If you're engaged, if you're letting a drug control you, you're weak. That's how I looked at it. So you're looking at this as a rational being, and you're dealing with somebody that has a completely different concept and different mores and modes of life. They're completely contrary. They're irrational. Shauna believed that somebody was her friend. If you were her friend, you would bring her drugs or alcohol, because that's what a friend does. Do you think that's a friend? To me, that's an enemy. And I had an argument with this girl about this. I said, these guys are not your friends. These girls are not your friends. If this is what they're doing, they're not your friends. And as far as I'm concerned, they're my enemy. So I ran these people out of her life. And she was very resentful of it. She thought that these people were her friends. Now, this is a girl that went here to Concord High School. All of her friends were the children of doctors and lawyers, all the upstanding people in the community, middle-class families that excelled in academia, that were part of the community. And now, she's characterizing these people as her friends. So I ran all these people off. Now, guess what? Nobody was calling her anymore. She had no friends. So she was devastated because she believed these people were her friends, and now here's another betrayal. Again, being used by people. Women are specifically targeted and vulnerable to men. You are vulnerable to men. If you do what they tell you to do, if they ask you to drink, if they ask you to do drugs, or you're not cool, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that, don't do it. Men are interested in one thing primarily at your age. I don't think I have to answer that, do I? So, but you got to be smart enough to know. And I'm not saying all men are bad. There are lots of good men, but If you're hanging around with guys that are engaged in alcohol or drug use or drug trade, it's going to lead to bad things. You have to stay away from these environments. You have to navigate away from these environments, and you have two choices. You know, your choice is going to be, do I want the American dream, or do I want the American tragedy? And that's the American tragedy right there. And it's horrible. That girl was dead. Her life was gone, and she has a 2-year-old son who's never going to have a mother. So dealing with somebody with addiction is very difficult. They're going to treat you like you're the enemy because you're trying to help them, and anybody else that's feeding their addiction is their friend. So it's completely irrational. So it's absolutely frustrating to have to deal with someone like this. But you know, you have to continue to be a caretaker, and you have to want to, you know, show them that they're loved and that you care, and you've got to pick them up and wipe them off and clean them up and stand them up and hope that they're going to be straight for a few more days. And it literally is a day-by-day battle. I mean, they battle every day. And if the claws of addiction get too deep, man, you know, you're going to prison. You're going to prison or you're going to the morgue. That's the bottom line. There's only two ways out, unless you walk away. And that takes a lot of personal fortitude. So any more questions about Shauna? Now I'm going to tell you about myself. When I was 23 years old, I was an extortionist. I used to extort drug dealers, gang members, motorcycle club members, bookmakers. I used to rob criminals. I had a full-time job, but on the side I used to rob criminals. That was my job. I believed that stealing from criminals was all right. I had no problem pistol whipping them. It didn't matter. I had no problem with any kind of violence I engaged in. As far as I was concerned, if you're in the criminal lifestyle, then you're subject to the perils of it, and if it was me, then so be it. That's a piece written about me from prison. So when I was 23, I went to execute a drug dealer with a machine gun. Kicked the back door in, sprayed the place with a machine gun, moved to the room that he was located in, sprayed the wall. He dove out the window, ran to the neighbors, called the police. The house was surrounded by a Manchester PD and a SWAT team within 20 minutes. I fired over 200 rounds from a MAC-10 machine gun with a silencer. I also had a pistol. While I was doing that, I was snorting cocaine. I had been snorting cocaine for about 24 hours straight before this happened, and drinking. So for about 24 hours, after I gave up, I ran out of ammunition. I gave up, ran out of coke. They found 17 kilograms of cocaine, just the vials, just the papers, because I snorted it all, and a bottle of vodka, and some weed, and I went to prison. I was sent to prison for 22 and a half to 45 years. When I went into prison, I was put in maximum security because I had assaulted a guard, and another inmate almost killed another inmate in the county jail. I split his skull open because he said he was going to rape me. So I said, well, I'm going to kill you. And that's what I did. I tried to kill him. I beat him half to death. And then when the guards came and tried to break it up, I beat one of them. So they put me in the hole. So I ended up in the state prison before I was even sentenced, 23 hours a day in a cell for 2 years. 2 years in a cage. When they tested me, they do adult basic education testing to determine what type of educational level I had. My level of education was 7.4. I had a 7.4 level of education. I was in prison at 23 years old, serving a 22 and a half to 45-year sentence. Plus I had a concurrent federal sentence for possession of an automatic weapon and a silencer. I made some bad choices. I was so humiliated that I had a 7th grade education that I went on a quest to educate myself. The first reason that this quest started was because I was in so much trouble, and I didn't believe in the system. I had an anti-authoritarian attitude. I didn't trust the system. I didn't trust lawyers. So I said, I need to get myself out of trouble here. So I wrote to Scranton, Pennsylvania to get myself a paralegal degree. And they said, well, we can't give you a paralegal degree because you don't have a GED. So I had my mother and my sister buy me the Black's Law Dictionary, and I was able to get the New Hampshire Criminal Code, Criminal Practice and Procedure, and I started teaching myself law. So I get into prison, I got this horrible education. I go on a quest for my education. I get my GED, my high school diploma. I get that paralegal degree I wanted. I get an associate's degree, a Bachelor of Specialized Studies in Paralegal Sciences, and a Master of Arts in Humanities with a specialization in political philosophy. Now, I was a jailhouse lawyer, very smart. I became an idealist. The most dangerous thing on earth is an idealist, because you can't kill an ideal. And I started suing prison for things that were happening to inmates, excessive use of force, denial of medical care. I saw people killed, I saw people die. Prison is a horrible place. I was so good at doing legal work that they gave me the ultimate reward, and they shipped me involuntarily, 6 o'clock in the morning, to one of the most violent prisons on the East Coast. They sent me to Summers, Connecticut, which was a maximum security prison. It was 85% black and Spanish, 15% white. The only guys that survived, and the only white guys that survived in the population were guys that had a fight game, or that was diagnosed. You know, you had to be a dangerous man to survive in that. But I came from the jungle. You know, I came from the jungle. They just put me back in the jungle. It didn't matter. But one thing that helped me survive was what I had as currency, and my currency was my intellect. Anybody can be violent, but not everybody can be smart. And I was a jailhouse lawyer, so my intellect allowed me to survive prison because I could transcend all racial lines. All the gangs came to me for help with respect to lawsuits and stuff like that, and legal work, so I survived that. Well, I get thrown out of that prison too for doing legal work. I was able to instigate a 5-year FBI investigation into guard brutality where some inmates had been killed and beaten by guards, and this stuff happens. I mean, bad things happen in prison. Shauna was raped in prison. So they sent me back to New Hampshire State Prison. New Hampshire State Prison says, we'll let you stay here if you promise to stay out of trouble. I said, well, I haven't been in any trouble. If legal work is trouble, well, we'll let you stay here. So I stayed there. Eventually, you know, I get my master's, and I write to my sentencing judge, George Papagiannis. It's the man that sentenced me to 22 and a half to 45 years in prison. I write to him, and I give him my first graduate paper, and he is so impressed with it that, you know, we began a course of correspondence. And eventually I asked him if he would support my release from prison. And he said yes. So, unprecedented in New Hampshire jurisprudence, this judge comes into court on my behalf and gets up on the witness stand of the same courtroom where he had sentenced me 17 years ago, in front of the same lawyer that had represented me. My lawyer swears him in as a witness. And this man says, when I put him away, I sent him away for every single day that I could. He's talking about me. He says, he came out of a house with a machine gun strapped to him and a Budweiser in his hand. Yeah, I had a Budweiser in my hand. I knew it was going to be that good after a long time. And he said, I was wrong. I want him released. A few months later, I was out of prison. 5 years of my life, I got back to visit that man. 5 years. When I got out of prison, when I was in prison, I was a college professor. I taught business law 1 and 2 for New Hampshire Tech. When I got out of prison, nobody would give me trouble. I have a rap sheet that was composed of numerous assaults, 6 counts of attempted murder on police officers, possession of a machine gun. Somebody sees that name, you ain't getting a job. I call it the Scarlet Felony Letter. Effed for heft. And that's what you are, man. You become a felon, man, you're through. You're through. Your life is over. You can't get life insurance. You can't become, there are numerous occupations that you cannot enter. And I got out of prison. I was washing dishes for $7 an hour. 40 years old, washing dishes. From that, I went to a roofing company. I started roofing at 40 years old. From that, I went to a siding company. I was siding. And both these jobs I got from felons who I met in prison, but I was not supposed to be associating with. So just by associating with these guys, it was a parole violation. I could have went back to prison for it. But I had to earn money. Because if you can't earn money, then what happens? Then you regress back to old behaviors, which is why we have, you know, an 85% recidivism rate here in the state and in the country, because people get out of prison, most of them are in prison for drug-related crimes. I mean, almost about 85% of your crimes are drug-related, either alcohol or drug-related, and that's putting people away. So they get out of prison, these people have burnt, they've burnt all their bridges, they've screwed over their family, they've screwed over all their friends because of drugs. So who are they going to rely on? Who's going to help them? When I got out of prison, my family gave me $5,000, and they paid 3 months rent for me. And they said, here you go, make it happen. And I did. But most people don't have that chance, which is why they go back. So, I mean, the inverse relationship with alcohol and drug abuse in crime is incredible. The best tool that we have to deal with it are the things that are being eliminated by budget cuts. I mean, like the academy program, the program up in, that was in Laconia program, that program there. These programs reduce recidivism, but they've been eliminated. So here I am out of prison now. Got myself a roofing job, then I go to a siding job, making $15 an hour, so I doubled my pay. I move on to start my own construction company. I start my own roofing company, my own siding company. I'm doing my own work now. I've got great jobs. I'm working for multi-million-dollar builders. I'm siding houses in Bedford, and Hudson, and Litchfield, all these wealthy places. Me and another convict, 2 of us. Then something happens. Then I get a baby. My son Giovanni is born. Right? Within 6 weeks of his birth, Giovanni is deathly ill with infection. They don't know what's wrong. He's got chronic diarrhea. He's got chronic, he's throwing up chronically, projectile puking. He can't hold nothing down. And his entire body is shedding like a snake. And he's itching and itching and itching. Can't stop itching. So we, of course, we bundle him. We bundle him up so he can't itch. And actually, that was aggravating. We were torturing our kid. We didn't even know it because we didn't know why he was itching. So we go from hospital to hospital to hospital, and we eventually end up at Dartmouth-Hitchcock Hospital, and they tell us that Giovanni has an immune deficiency, that they can't treat it, that he needs to go to Boston Children's Hospital. So I remember they said that he had a 50-50 chance of living if he could find a bone marrow transplant. So this was, we did months and months going back from hospital to hospital to hospital, and this is what we arrived at. I can remember I was leaving the hospital because they airlifted him. I was wearing a full-length leather jacket and a full men's shoe. I'm walking out of the hospital, and I've got a baby to carry. Get well balloons on it, empty. No baby in it, tears streaming down my face. People just parting. Because you know what they're thinking. They're thinking, well, this guy just lost his baby. It's like empty child's carrying. I walked to the car, and I start beating on the steering wheel, I'm trying to rip it off, and I'm crying. And then I get my stuff together, regain my composure. I said, I gotta get on track. I gotta save my kid here. I gotta do whatever I can do to help my kid. We end up in Boston Children's Hospital. Test after test after test. They're finally able to get Giovanni's condition under control, stop the itching. Where we find out that his white blood cells are attacking his skin. He's got white blood cell counts in the hundreds of thousands, so over 100,000. It's crazy numbers. And it's attacking his skin and making his skin peel. And that's what's making him itch. Also, the itching is creating staph infections. So he's infecting himself. And 1/3 of your immune system, of course, is, or 1/3 of your intestinal tract is your immune system. So he's poisoning himself. He's poisoning himself. We find out that his white blood cells don't work, his red blood cells don't work, his NK cells don't work, natural killer cells that defeat germs in your body. He's down to 2 final tests, and they tell us. One's an XLR lethal test. If he has this, he's dead. And the other is a thing called NEMO. NEMO is a very, very rare immune deficiency. It's an X-linked chromosomal, so it comes from the mother down to the child. He also had a thing called ectodermal dysplasia. Now, a child born with ED that has NEMO is supposed to die in utero. He was not supposed to be born, should have died. in utero. So the final test comes back, it's Nemo. So they tell us, they sit us down, and they say, your son has will die before his first birthday if he doesn't get a bone marrow transplant. And they say the chances of finding a transplant are 1 in 20,000. And I said, no problem. I'll put 20,000 people in bone marrow. And the doctors looked at me like I was completely insane. Then they looked at Giovanni's mother, Christina, and she said, you're really ill. He'll do it. And I said, you should be asking me what I will do to save my child's life, because that's going to be a really short list. So right here in Concord, I started hanging up pictures of Giovanni in all the stores that said, save Giovanni. And what happened is we created a global bone marrow movement. Throughout New England, we had women in 13 states, throughout the country, women in 13 states organizing bone marrow drives. I called them Giovanni's Mamas. He was on the front page of the Union Leader, the Concord Monitor, the Herald, Fox. We were on Fox and Friends. We were on all NECN, all these different channels, plugging, begging people to, save Giovanni. Please join the bone marrow registry. There was no match in the bone marrow registry for Giovanni. There's over 15 million people in the registry worldwide. Only 15 million people in the population of billions. So there was no match for him. What saved Giovanni was a woman who donated her cord blood. So cord blood saved Giovanni. He got the transplant, he survived. He still had a lot of medical issues though. Giovanni almost died 5 times before his 2nd birthday. The kid was a powerhouse. He was a powerhouse. He thought he was a gladiator. He really believed he was a gladiator. Unfortunately, Giovanni died just over 7 months ago from an infection. He got an infection from a PICC line, and within an hour and a half, he was brain dead. I was in the ambulance from Concord Hospital to Boston Children's when he was having small seizures. He was in bad. My stomach hurts. I was crying. He was unusually sick. It was bad. Everyone had to see me. So I kept turning my head over, and then I would turn back. His love was back, his family. As soon as we got into the emergency room, his body went into full convulsions. His left eye and cheek almost touched. His whole body started convulsing. They put him on a gurney, and they went to intubate him. I said, do you have to intubate him? And they said, yes, we have to intubate him. So once they intubated him, this intubation was just bad. It was just bad. And at that point, he started having more seizures. His body was seizing. They started hitting him with different meds. They were able to stop it. Then we brought him into for a CAT scan to see if there was any brain damage. They couldn't see anything. They brought him up to ICU. We get up to ICU. The last thing that Giovanni does is he squeezes my hand and his mother's our fingers. He's got our fingers on his hands. He squeezes our fingers, and he wiggles his toes on his right foot. His body starts convulsing. And the doctors, they don't know what's going on. So then his heart starts dropping. His heart's dropping. They hit him with one med to bring his heart up. They max the med out. They can't do any more of that med. His heart starts dropping again. They hit him with another med. They max that med out. His heart starts dropping again. They hit him with a 3rd med, the 3rd and final med that they have to keep his heart elevated. They hit him with that. They max that out. So now Giovanni's living on 3 meds that are keeping his heart alive, and he's on a respirator. I have all the doctors that have anything to do with neurology come in to check Giovanni to see if there's any brain activity. They determine that there's no brain activity. What happens is that Giovanni's blood went septic, and this bacteria rushed through his body to his brain, and so swelled his brain that it severed his brainstem. He was brain dead. So at that point, I tell his mother, who had previously taken a child off life support when he was 8 months old, because her 2nd son apparently had Nemo as well, but they hadn't discovered Nemo until 2005. That child died in 2003, and he lived a horrific 8 months of agony. I told her, I was going to let this woman remove another child from life support, so I said, we need to remove him from life support. I said, I'll do this. So I got everybody that loved him into that room. My mother, my sister came from New York, and everybody got around the bed, and And it's very, very ceremonial the way that you remove so much of that support. We printed his feet, and I washed his feet off. And we printed his hands, and I washed his hands off. And then I told his mother to get it done for him. And she got him the very hand. And she wrapped herself around him. And she began to sing, "You are my sunshine." I was on my knees holding Giovanni's hand. I had my forehead in his arm. Never in my life had I heard anything as gut-wrenching and painful than to watch that woman sing her child to the heavens. And they said, "Mike, should we move from that?" I said, "Yes." So we moved the heads, move the life support, move the respirator. He asked me to move the respirator. And then he said, "You want me to give him a good shot? I'll give him a shot of morphine so he doesn't gasp." I said, "Yeah, give him a good shot of morphine." And that was it. He was pronounced dead. Easter Day. He should have been hunting for eggs. So here we have another tragedy. But Giovanni created a legacy. We've registered over 55,000 people in bone marrow registry today. Over 170 people have bone marrow cancers. Giovanni thought he was a gladiator. One of his favorite movies was Gladiator. And in the movie Gladiator, Maximus says to his men before they go into battle, he says, "Brothers, what we do in life echoes in eternity." And that's what you all want to do. You want to make sure that you leave your mark on this world so that people will remember you. You make the right decisions and you leave a legacy. You find a cause and you live it and you be it. And you don't be dead. Because if you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything. Questions?
I just want to say you have a good story.
Thank you. So, now we've covered a lot of ground. We've covered drugs, gangs, violence, the criminal underworld, Giovanni, a great story. Shauna, a tragic story. And Giovanni too. Giovanni died. There's no worse thing than having a buried child. But we're continuing to build a legacy. We keep doing the bone marrow drives, and we're going to keep doing that. We're in Italy now, doing work there, and hopefully he'll go global. Giovanni's Googleable. You can Google him. You get dozens of hits on him. He was a powerful child. You couldn't help but love the kid. He treated us all like his subjects. He was the only one who told me what to do. Got it! Come sit down.
I went to blood drive. It was on the morning and he was there.
Oh.
And just seeing him smile, like just lit up. I just lit up with happiness just seeing him. He was adorable. I didn't know much about him, but he was just the happiest little kid.
Yeah, he was a happy baby. Yeah, he lived a lot of pain, but he was spoiled rotten. We gave him everything that he ever wanted. And I used to argue with his mother. I said, "Why do you do it?" I'm just going to give him whatever he wants. And I said, "All right, whatever." He'd coming home with, the Gladiator, because we were separated. I had half custody of Giovanni. I'm like, why does this kid, he had such a knowledge of death that it disturbed me. I found it disturbing that a 4-year-old, 5-year-old child could have such a knowledge of death and awareness of death. It was from all the movies that he had watched. He thought he was a superhero. He was constantly in different superheroes. He made me dress like Captain America. He wanted me to be, for Halloween, he wanted me to be Captain America. So I went out and I found a Captain America outfit. And, Christina would come over to the house. I'd be sitting on the couch, with Giovanni in Captain America outfit. She said, "I see you dressed today." I said, "Yeah." Because I have an office in my house. I work out of my house. So when I had Giovanni, of course, he was running back and forth to the office and calling me. And Shauna used to say, because after I had lost Giovanni, I was devastated, and she said, you know, you were the most amazing father. She said, I'd never seen anybody jump the way that you did for that kid. And that was one of the things that she admired most about me, was that I was such a good father. And she was a good mother too when she was straight, you know, but she just couldn't stay straight. You know, she couldn't do it. She was too far gone. She had surrendered to her addiction, and she's dead. Questions? I know you got to have some questions. Oh yeah, she's just here 3 days a week. She had half custody, so she had the baby at her mother's house. But her mother was so afraid to leave Shauna with the baby because she would take her meds. I mean, when she took her night meds, I mean, she was gone. And she had a lot of neurological issues. You know, she was always flinching because she had nerve damage from the broken backs. So she took Seroquel at night and another thing called Neurontin, and she would be out completely. So her mother was scared to death that, you know, the baby wasn't going to be taken care of. So she wouldn't let Shauna leave the house with that baby unless she was with me. She would come to my house with the baby because my whole house is baby-proof. And of course, I can take care of the kids, so she didn't mind the baby being with me. So yeah, so she did some. And the families continues, you know, this season. And now they're battling with the father to make sure that they can have a relationship with him and see him as much as possible. He thinks that my Cadillac is his. Yeah, he makes me drive it on the lawn. Question? Anybody? I know you guys are criminal justice field, right? What about it, man? You're never going to get a better time to talk to a criminal than right now.
Your own drug use. Two questions. Your own history of drug use, when it started, how it came about, and you talked about, you opened up by saying how you were divorced, you're a very violent man.
Yeah.
Where do you think that came from? How did that?
Well, the violence came from, I was very small when I was young. I was a little guy, so I had what I termed the Napoleon complex. So being a small guy, I had to fight all the biggest guys. And I became a very violent guy. I was involved in boxing, then I was involved in kickboxing, then I was involved in martial arts for many years. You know, traditional martial arts, Kempo and Taekwondo weren't good enough for me. I was a Muay Thai fighter. I wanted the most vicious martial arts that you could do. I actually had an underground gym before they even had the movie Fight Club, and I used to use my guys to do illegal evictions and extortion against social clubs that engaged in gambling. So the Greek clubs that ran the gambling and stuff, if they didn't pay me, their customers didn't make it back to their cars. So that's what I did. And with respect to the drug use, I mean, my drug use began with alcohol. I started drinking when I was, a little kid before the Little League games we were drinking. And then from there it went to pharmaceutical drugs that are in all of our closets. You know, my grandfather had all kinds of medication in his closet, so I started eating pharmaceutical stuff. And then I started smoking pot, and then acid, and then hash, and what else? Where I grew up, heroin was a no-no. You know, if you did heroin, you couldn't be trusted, and you were a junkie. And that's how we characterize people. We characterize it as a weakness. So I was never an addict. I was never an alcoholic. But what I was a very wild guy. So I utilized drugs and alcohol to augment my insanity. I mean, I just had a good time. I just got wasted. But one of the very dangerous things that I did is I used to mix drugs. Because I was always looking for the ultimate high. So I would mix like Quaaludes and Quaaludes with acid, or Quaaludes with mescaline. Quaaludes and mescaline and alcohol, all three. No one mixing depressants with stimulants, anything. They just shut the heart down. But I was fortunate, I didn't die. But again, I wasn't a regular drug user either. But when I partied hard, and I partied lethally. I mean, these things kill people regularly. John Belushi died from heroin and cocaine, which they call speedballs. So I did that one time. I did a speedball, and it was so good that I said I can never do this again because I will never stop. I never felt a state of ecstasy like that in my life. Besides, I mean, The closest that I've ever been to God was a machine gun bag of cocaine. If you want to talk about power, that's what it is, and that is a sick, sick vision right there. So that was my drug use. I mean, my father owned a bar. I grew up in a bar. My father owned a bar for 21 years. I was in the bar business when I was a little kid. I mean, I used to watch people waiting at the door at 9 o'clock to come in and start drinking. Alcoholics, I mean, straight up alcoholics. They'd come in the morning and they'd start drinking Bloody Marys and screwdrivers. And then it would progress to alcohol. I mean, it was a sick, sick, sick cycle. So that was my exposure. I mean, most of us are exposed to the medicine cabinet and to the bar at our houses, you know. And I think that really that alcohol is the gateway drug. It's not marijuana. It's alcohol, and it's those pharmaceutical meds that are in our closets, because those are the first things that we're exposed to. And then when we're out in the environment and we're meeting friends and stuff, that's when we start getting into the illicit drugs, the marijuana, the ecstasy, the cocaine, and things like that, the pills. And now, I mean, I know that heroin is very popular because it's so cheap. I mean, marijuana is so expensive, people can't buy that, they're doing heroin instead, because you can get it for $5 a bag. But that $5 a bag, man, this is where it leads you. Right to death.